Hello, everyone. This is Paolo Rigo from Studio Rigo. A couple of weeks ago, almost 3 weeks ago, I was checking in my DMs or LinkedIn, and I got some incredible positive vibes from an Italian translator, and her name is Natalia Bertelli. I bet some of you already know who I'm talking about, and you may be wondering, hold on, you're a tax expert and usually talk about fiscal matters. What's going on here? Well, I'm a gentleman, so I let her do the magic. Hi, Natalia. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you very much for having me, Paolo.
I already know you. We met, a few times before this session, and I'm pretty confident you can give people, not just expats, people in general, a lot of incredible insights regarding translations in general and the services you may offer. So before we dig in, could you please spend a few words, just a few words, to introduce yourself?
Yeah. So my name is Natalia Bertelli. As you said, I'm the owner of a translation, let's say, boutique agency. I have been doing this job for the past 13 years. I'm a sworn translator. So what I essentially do is I translate mainly vital records, certificates, anything that you can think about related to either expats or private individuals who want to claim their Italian citizenship or who want to get married, for example, to a foreign spouse, start a life abroad. So people traveling basically, and their needs are my business. I take care of their documents, their translations. And yeah, that's basically it, I would say.
Okay, amazing explanation. My following question is pretty tough because sometimes you try to avoid that.
Yeah.
And it may sound silly or obvious. And what do you love most and what do you hate most about what you do for a living? You can be 100% honest.
Well, I will be 100% honest. So what I love the most, and it took me time to realize this because it can be a quite boring job. My job, I mean, I translate vital records for a living, so how boring is that? But every vital record contains basically a story. And what I truly, truly love about my clients in particular is that through their vital records, I get to know their families. I work with lots of American citizens, the descendants of Italians who emigrated to the US many years ago. And their vital records contain the whole story of their family, and it's fascinating. I love looking at for example, the number of children women had, or the jobs they had, where they relocated, and sometimes you get to even see the actual places they lived in, because you have to check, for example, the accuracy of an address. Maybe we have to try and understand the handwritten address, so we check it on Google Maps, and you get to see the actual place because it's still there. So that is the fascinating part of my job. The thing I hate, I mean, I don't think there is something I truly hate. Otherwise, I wouldn't be doing this job. So it's not something I can truly hate. I got to work with mostly amazing clients, and honestly, there is nothing I hate. Sometimes the most boring thing is probably the bureaucracy related to this, but that's about it, let's say.
Okay. I will say something. Let's say that we can talk about bad things off records, if it works for you, after the session is over. Okay, I'm impressed because you said something that I really love, and you sound much more very closer to a life coach, not just a consultant, if you know what I mean. And it seems like there's just a link, there's a connection between what we do for a living and what you do for a living. Between a certified translator as you are and a tax firm, because we can impact a lot of people's lives in a very huge way. So the big question now, and you can take charge if you want, is who do you think comes first, the tax firm or the professional like yours?
I think we enter our clients' lives in different seasons of their life. At least in my experience, they contact me when they are either thinking about claiming their Italian citizenship. So they are in a sort of a discovery stage. They try and understand if they're eligible. Or maybe they are at an advanced stage. So they are looking for the right translator, the right professional for their needs. In your case, I think the tax advisor comes afterwards, probably when you made it, when you have your passports in your hands and you probably relocated to Italy, or you settle down and you start thinking about, okay, now that I live here, there will be tax implications. So how do I deal with those? So we enter probably at different moments. I think there are some intersections probably. Let's think about someone who decides to buy property in Italy. Sometimes I also have these types of clients who love our amazing country. They want to buy real estate here. And of course, they need, I think, both a tax advisor, other kinds of professionals as well, and a translator, because they need to have their documents translated for example, the bank to get a mortgage. So these are just some of the examples that I can think of.
Countless times I met someone, of course, I bet they were not client of yours, okay? I bet countless times clients that were complaining about our wrong services provided by the translator. And actually, I see that there is a huge domino effect when there is a mistake at the very beginning of the process. I'm going to give an example. Let's say that they sign something about a mortgage, they sign something about a bank account, or they sign something about a rental agreement.
Yeah.
And after that, of course, we are going to talk about taxes and implications, but if they made a mistake, it's almost impossible to reverse that. What do you think?
Yes. I think that's a very sad truth. I mean, I think you're being very honest in saying that sometimes you have to deal with the aftermath of these things. And I think that this is also very common. This is due to, the fact that the clients don't really have any control over the translation process and the translation result. They, of course, don't understand the Italian language, so they cannot really say anything as to the quality of the actual translation. Maybe they think that everything is fine because they don't get any complaints, let's say, from the bank. They don't get any complaints from the notary when they go and buy property. And then you examine the documents and you realize that there is a mistake, and your clients understand that they had understood something completely different because maybe the translator or interpreter at the time did not do their job properly. So whose fault is this? I, as a professional, I think that when you accept a job, you should be 100% certain that you can actually do that particular job in a professional way. And sometimes if you have any doubts, especially with legal documents, especially with, even in the case of vital records, they may seem very simple, but if you don't know the basics about these documents, you risk very costly mistakes in terms of time and in terms of money. Let's just think about the vital records. This is the easiest example that comes to my mind. And this is something I've seen happen in my field. So you don't know that, for example, a record needs to be legalized before you can actually translate it. You translate it, and then the client goes to the consulate with their translation thinking that everything's all right. And the consulate, and maybe he's been waiting 1 year for his appointment at the consulate. And then he goes there with this translation and the translation is wrong. So now what do? You've been waiting 1 year or 2 and the translations are not okay. So what do? You have to do everything again, waste time, waste money. This is not always possible. Sometimes documents have an expiry date. if you as a translator don't know how to deal with these aspects of the job, which are not strictly related to translation, these are not really technical issues, but they are more of the, how can I say, the everything that goes around this particular area of translation, then I think you should not accept these kinds of jobs, because the consequences often don't really come from an actual mistake only in the text. They may come from a mistake in the management of the whole job. Like you don't say to your clients that something is missing in their documents. You don't notice that there is a discrepancy in the names that may result in their being denied citizenship. So you have to know these things.
Believe me or not, I'm writing down a few notes right now. Because every word that you say, every word that you share with me has a powerful meaning. And you were talking a few moments ago about the quality of the service that you may or you may not get from a professional. So the following question is pretty obvious. How can someone that is not a native speaker, so from another country in general, can spot a good or bad professional in your experience? I mean, considering he doesn't speak the language, the Italian language, and on the other hand, he needs to hire someone.
Yeah. So I think what I would do, because when I think about my clients, I think I always try to recommend what I would do if these were my documents. So I think even if you don't speak the language, or maybe even in your case, like someone doesn't really have to be an expert tax advisor to hire you. They have to trust you, and trust comes from feeling that the professional knows what they're doing, and this comes from probably receiving explanations. I think we both work in jobs that require people to be educated, and I'm saying this in the good sense of the word, like not because I want to be patronizing, but in the sense that people cannot know the ins and outs of our jobs. Otherwise, we wouldn't be experts, right? So what we need to be doing is explain to them the potential problems that they have. Explain to them, for example, why we cannot work on their particular job in this very moment, and why we would be happy to work on their job, on their project in the next few months, for example, once they have fixed all the things that need to be fixed. For me, one of the things that really means that someone is serious about their job and that deserves my trust is when they are being honest to the point of refusing to take on a project because the project is not ready. And with these kinds of documents, it's often like this. These documents may not be ready for a series of reasons, a variety of reasons that people don't even know. They don't realize, for example, that there is a mistake in a particular certificate, or that another certificate is missing a legalization or an apostille, or these very technical things that people don't deal with on a daily basis, so they do not know them, but you as a professional do know them. So I think you have ethically, you have to tell people, okay, this is not the right time, but fix this and that, and I will be happy to work with you. And in my experience, people can understand that you know what you're doing when you point out potential problems. You point out also potential solutions, because pointing out the problems is not enough. But just saying, in my case, it can be fairly easy, or just saying, I think I'm not an expert, a legal expert, for example, but I think I've seen this happen and you can solve it this, and this way, and I'm happy to recommend this professional or another professional.
Oh, that makes perfect sense. I'm teasing you right now. I already know that. And by the way, for all the people listening in, we already had this brief discussion of records a few days ago. What do you think and you can avoid the question, okay, if it's too personal. What do you think about this, several one point of service for everything? Like, come here, I will help you out with the tax, with immigration, with the legal, with the translations, only one.
My God. So, yeah. So I think that it is extremely tempting to hand out an entire project to someone else and not think about it, and get this kind of turnkey result. So you have this kind of peace of mind because someone else is thinking about everything. But the reality is our jobs and other professionals' jobs are complicated. That's why people specialize. Otherwise, if it would be possible to be, a jack of all trades, we would. It would be easier, probably. I don't know. But people do need to specialize because our jobs can be complicated. There are many things to take into account. So I think while it is extremely tempting and sometimes it may be necessary, you may not have the bandwidth to take care of something or the time required to, have control of the process. Also, I think you should try to retain some control over the process, at least to try and understand who's actually taking care of the different moving parts of your project. When someone, for example, decides to, in the case of my clients, claim their Italian citizenship and then maybe move to Italy, etc., they need several professionals. If they really want like the end result and they don't want to think about any part of the process, they truly need several professionals. So while I totally understand that it's not feasible to, want to meet everyone taking care of every single document in person, this is not something we want to do. But at the same time, do realize that you cannot expect one person or one company to provide everything you need without you having to not control, but just, try and see what it is that they're doing, be interested in that. That is very important because in the end, you will always be the one who cares about your project the most. Professionals are professionals, and when they are so, they do care about your project. But, they also have many clients. We all have many clients with many requirements. So something can slip through the cracks. So it's always wiser, I think, to expect professional results, but at the same time to be interested and not think that you can find a one-stop shop for these kinds of things. These are truly specialized projects that require several kinds of professionals.
I'm not saying that I agree with you, but I can say that I don't disagree with you.
Okay. We agree that we don't disagree.
Yeah. This is a black or white question, so you can take your time before answering.
Yeah.
And you have my blessing, my permission to not be humble for once.
Okay.
In a range from 1 to 10, how much you think or you feel your expertise can really facilitate the tax life or life in general for someone moving to Italy?
The tax life. For the tax life, I don't think I can truly help other than being, very careful when I'm translating, for example, material for a bank. I can facilitate life in general in the sense that if, I don't know, I'm thinking about specific examples here, but let's say a client decides to move to Italy and buy some property, and the bank requires them to submit some translations. From my experience, I know that banks don't need, for example, 20 pages translated for your employment contract. They probably need some specific details. So I can offer to understand with the bank if there is only one page they need, which can facilitate your life in the sense that this will require less time and less money. So in this sense, I can facilitate your life, or I can offer you names of other professionals if you need some specific service that I cannot provide. This is also helpful, I think, because you are in a country where you don't know anyone potentially, other than maybe some of the professionals you already met. So it's always helpful to have someone having your back in a way. So I think in this sense, I can help my clients also by spotting some potential mistakes, taking care of some aspects that are not strictly related to, in my case, to translation. So I'm thinking even, you know, a very apparently trivial thing like having a courier pick up your documents wherever you are, be it in Italy or abroad, and then arranging for shipment wherever you are. So maybe I had a client once who was in London, but he needed his documents to be submitted to a consulate in Russia, and we just organized that without any problems. So, you know, it's a kind of, I think, it's a turnkey result. You can be wherever in the world and you know that your documents are being taken care of. And at the same time, if you want to reach me, for example, via email, you have any doubts, you prefer to speak with me over the phone, you can do that. So you can retain more control if you wish over your documents. I mean, I think trying to accommodate clients' needs, or, you know, in the extent that is, to the extent that that's possible, is also a way to facilitate people's lives. What do you think?
I think that what you can do is 10 times more powerful than what we can do, for a simple reason, because taxes can make feel people bad, or at least can give you some relief when your expectation is not what the bill is in terms of you're going to pay less.
Yeah.
So the best case is you're going to suffer less, like pulling off a band-aid.
Yeah.
It's all about the pain that you will feel.
Yeah.
Flip side, you can give pleasure to people, because I think that the feeling of grabbing a passport and knowing that you're connecting to all the, you know, the legacy of your relatives in Italy is priceless. It's a story that goes on, and you're writing the next chapter of this, I don't know, century's life. Yeah. You use the word mistake, and you already know that I'm using this word against you now. In the wide, you know, tax matter, there are different levels of mistakes. Some can cost you a few bucks, some, you know, 90% of your income, some 15% of your foreign assets. So applying the same logic in your expertise, what are the most, or one of the most dangerous mistakes that someone can make in your business as a customer, as a client?
Well, I would start with the obvious, shopping for the lowest prices. So when you're, but I think this applies to any professional. And I must say, honestly, this is not my case. But in general, when you want to hire a professional, of course, you don't have to base your decision off of the quote that you get alone, because that's not the only parameter that you need to think of, to take into account. So shopping for the lowest prices is never a wise decision, because true professionals are not cheap. And that's for a reason, because you need to be specialized in a field. And, you know, to be specialized, you need to have time to keep up to date. You can't be buried in work and work only, you know. So for you to build time, you need to have the money to carve out time to be updated. And what you want from a professional is someone who has the right amount of experience, like hands-on experience in your particular area, and at the same time, some, you know, level of theoretical backup to that experience. So not only someone who executes something, but also someone who has enough knowledge to provide you with the right solution for your specific needs, you know. So this is something that is very important. So I think price is often an indicator of the level of professionalism of the professional you choose. And then I think this is probably connected to all the other mistakes that you can get, because if you choose the wrong professional, they will make mistakes probably. And what's worse than making a mistake is not being able to fix it. So, mistakes can happen to everyone because we're humans. We can try as hard as we want, but, inevitably, if you work, you will sometimes make mistakes. The difference, I think, is in how you can fix the mistake. Is this something that can be fixed? How willing is the professional you choose to fix the mistake? Are they defensive? So this is something you will have to take into account if, unfortunately, there is a mistake in the project you entrust this particular professional with. I don't know if this makes sense, but I think for me, even in my experience as a customer, I think mistakes can happen, and I'm happy when I see that on the other side there is true willingness to fix the mistake, to really help me to recognize that, okay, I did something wrong and I'm trying to fix it. So this is important for me.
Just to recap, it seems like your lesson here is try to find the most professional guy or girl out there that seems like to have an idea of what they're doing for life. And then never use price without a context.
Yes, you're not shopping for a t-shirt here. So I think the difference, and this is not, even when you're asking me how can someone choose the right professional when they don't speak the language, so they have no control in the end over the quality of what you provide. This is a true question. This is a true problem when you buy these kinds of services. But the problem remains, I think, with every kind of service. We do not provide tangible stuff. Like, people don't see a pair of shoes online and they're like, oh, I like these, I'd like for them to be mine, and they're imagining scenarios where they're wearing these shoes, for example. You basically sell tax advice and nice translations of vital records. So in your case, it's about try to offer the less painful solution, as you put it, for your clients. In my case, for the longest time, I was thinking about translations as some sort of necessary evil, in the sense that this is not something you buy for pleasure. This is something you buy because you have to buy it. And if you could, you would not do it. But there is also another side to the story, in my case and in yours too. In my case, I started seeing the story of the families and thinking that, yes, it's true, it's a sort of necessary evil, but on the other side, I am connecting them to their roots. They see where they come from. Thanks to this, these translations really come at a pivotal point in their lives. These people are essentially changing their lives. They are marrying someone else. They are having children. They are bringing children here, or relocating. So it's always an exciting moment in their life. In your case too, I imagine, if you can provide a successful solution to preserve a person's assets, you are helping them becoming richer in the longer term. So there is always another side to the story. I'm simplifying here, but I think the sense is clear. We are always trying to make people trust us, but in the end, I think the only way people can trust us and feel that they have chosen the right professional is by providing them with the context that we can to help them make an informed decision. That's about it in the end.
There are a lot of quotes out there about the real goal of our professional. I think that, as you just said, our goal should not be just to get as client like a car salesman that looks like a vampire ready to suck your blood.
Yeah.
But we should be able to put the client in the best decision to make in the best position to make the best decision for him or for her, regardless, it could be us or someone else. And sometimes there is a conflicting dialogue inside ourselves, because of course we are business owners, we have to make money for a living, but we have to remember that a bad relationship can leave some bad residue in the long run. So I totally feel you. I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, our businesses are relationship businesses. They're not traffic businesses. We don't have a brick and mortar shop where, what's really interesting for us is to get as many people as possible inside it. That's not our point. We want to have relationships with people, and especially when you're dealing with, even intimate aspects of their lives. I see vital records and I get to see details of these people's lives, and they are intimate parts of their lives. There is no denying it. In your case too, you deal with their assets. You deal with, things that they probably don't tell everybody. You just deal with not a secret side of their life, but something they keep private to themselves, or they share with a trusted person. So that's about it. That's the essence, I think, of our job.
We have to feel responsible for that. And based on your experience, and I'm getting, as you can see, I'm digging down in your personal details. When do you think it's the right time to speak to a professional like you? Or flip side, when do you think it's too early or too broad looking for some advice in your matter and you try to push away?
So I can tell you that from my experience, I don't know why, but I think probably translators feel more approachable than other professionals, even at an early stage. So I get requests from people who are just trying to understand if they're eligible. So really, they are at the earliest stage possible. And I got requests from people who basically have all their documents ready and just want a quote. So I have both ends of the spectrum. So the problem comes when you have an extremely specific situation. Say, I have a DNA test proving that this is my father, but I don't know where my father is. Can I claim citizenship? This is not something I can answer, because this is something that probably a lawyer can answer, So what I can do is basically gently point someone to the right kind of professional. And I don't blame this on the client usually, because, there are some situations where maybe you don't know if you have to talk to a lawyer, or maybe you think this person deals with these kinds of things every day, and maybe I've been reading some blog posts she writes and she seems approachable, so I'll try and ask her. So this is probably the logic behind all this. But these are the situations where I usually say, okay, just, maybe it's better if you talk to a lawyer or a genealogist or another kind of professional, because this is not something I can help you with.
That's really honest from you. I give you a 10 on a 10 point. As a human being, okay, not just a professional. And based on our conversation so far, the language barrier looks like a mountain to climb for someone. But I see a lot of things in common between, translation itself and numbers, between, documents to provide for me and you, strictly by the rules, regulations to read, and deadlines to meet. We both fall under the same cap of the hated Italian bureaucracy, so details matter a lot.
Yeah.
What do you think about clients, or let's say prospects in general, telling you how to do what you do for a living because they've read something on the internet and a friend says, oh, you should do X, Y, and Z about your case?
Yeah, this happens all the time.
I know that.
This happens all the time. So I can tell you this. I think this comes with experience though. So I've had one particular case that I remember really, and I was proud of myself, like patting myself on the shoulder for the answer, but I got the end result that I wanted. So this particular client requested a professional level translation. And so I just submitted my quote. And then he replied by saying that it was too expensive, that he was expecting less, etc. So instead of, ignoring the email, this really bugged me because I was like, you requested a professional level translation. So what did you expect exactly? So I explained why I thought my quote was a professional level quote. And then I provided a link to another bigger kind of agency where he could find 3 different types of quotes. Just to, for him to have the full context, as we were saying before. In the end, this particular client replied, not client, but in the end, he didn't want to buy the service from me because it was not the right time, but he was very kind. And he said, I was completely wrong. I was thinking, you made me realize, he said, that I requested a Ferrari, and in the end I had the budget for a Fiat Punto or something similar. So this really made me laugh. But sometimes, people tell you things just because, they don't really have any particular, they don't really understand. They are basically trying to tell you how to do your job. They think they're making suggestions. Problem is, when you're making suggestions to a person that you are supposed to hire and you don't have the same level of experience, maybe, you can make suggestions in a different way, or at least try not to sound as if you're trying to teach me what I should be doing. And I think we get this from clients who have read all kinds of materials online, and many times the things that they read are not necessarily accurate. And we also get this from other professionals. I think they may be in our same fields or in other fields, and they think they know just because they are fellow professionals, but it's not necessarily true. So I think in the end, when it's possible, when you think that the person will understand, the best strategy for this is always try to reply and to educate the person in a good way. Maybe they didn't have any bad intention. Maybe they did have some bad intentions and also gotten some pretty nasty replies. And okay, just ignore those.
You remind me a quote that I heard from a client of mine a few years ago. He's a doctor. He does surgeries. He's a plastic doctor, and he does surgeries for a living. And he told me, the real reason why we give the anesthetic drug to our clients, to our customers, not because of the pain, but because doing so will put them quiet while we do the work.
Oh my God. Okay, well, that was honest, like brutally honest.
And I love that because it makes all the difference. They cannot complain and they will judge that just the results.
Yeah, true. But again, we're in the realm of the tangible things. They can judge the results. They don't judge the process, but they judge the results. In our case, I think it's even more difficult. They can't judge the results. In your case, because for what you provide, in some cases, it's longer term. So by the time they can really judge the results, you will have to wait for them to recognize that you did a good job. For me, because they sometimes don't have, most of the times, they don't have the language level needed to judge the results. So, that's the complicated part, probably. You have to try and put them quiet by giving them the right information and hoping that they will trust you.
Definitely makes sense. And what I love sharing with people when they got in touch with my office for the very first time is, we just met, we're strangers. You cannot trust my firm because it takes time. I barely trust my wife. I've been married. So what makes the less risky choice look like to you? And then I start from there.
Yeah.
Everyone has different expectations. And let me say something. I can't wait to jump into some more creative brainstorming with you and show people how little things bring high-stake results. We're not after perfection, as you just said. Everyone makes mistake, as the clients do. I believe we're here to share our knowledge because we want to make a difference. So I hope you agree with that. From the following session, from the following episode, we're willing to narrow our focus on certain main topics, like, as we just said, the birth certificate, the mortgage contract, and so on, and give all the people tuning in something they can use in real life.
Yeah.
So thank you again, Natalia. We agreed on something like, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, remember? And now we made a way lot more. It's been a pleasing conversation. Sounds like having a coffee with a friend sitting down at the bar.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to having you again for more to come. Are you okay with that?
Yeah, totally agree. Thank you very much.
Thank you for being here. And thanks everyone for tuning in. See you in the next episode.